All right. Maria says she can hear me. Perfect. So we are live, guys. We are live. We're going to get started. All right. So first of all, thank you guys for joining. Very excited to get the presentation, present to you guys on our topic today. So we're going to go ahead and add this presentation in here. Hey, Rajesh. Rajesh. All right. All right, welcome everybody. Welcome. All right, so we're getting started now. So thank you guys for coming in today. My name is Wendell, Jean-Jules, and hey Raj. All right, seeing all your messaging coming in now, guys. Thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody who joined us for the first virtual session last month, and this is basically our second virtual event that we're doing, and it's titled Cracking Your Audience Code. Really the sole purpose of this particular session is that we really want to help entrepreneurs like yourself really understand the people that you're going after, your audience, and any information that can really help you cultivate a great experience, not only for yourself, but for your business, and then give you some laser sharp opportunity to really focus in on the people that you really want to go after in your business. So I have a great presentation lined up for you guys today. I'm going to try to get through it as quickly as possible so that you guys can be able to hear and understand. See some other people joining. Welcome, Amani. Hey, Shani. How are you guys? And if you guys have any questions throughout this presentation, please feel free to comment. I know we're currently live on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. So if any of you guys are joining in from any of those places as well, please feel free to comment there. We do have people who are on our team that are going to be taking those questions and putting them in the chat. And I'll be able to address and answer any of those questions that you guys may have throughout this. So with that, we're going to kind of get into the presentation today. So as I mentioned, my name is Wendell Jean-Jules. I'm a business growth coach, author, and also entrepreneur that loves to help other business owners really thrive and be a caterpillar to the people that they're serving in their community. As I mentioned, this is our second event. We have a total of 6, which we'll get into later. We had the first one, which was about mindset, and then today we're going to be talking about your audience code. So just to give you guys a little bit, again, some background information for those joining in for the first time, the Hustle to Growth Summit. The reason why I came up with this concept was because over the past couple of years, I've been coaching, consulting so many business owners. And I've been seeing a constant pattern of challenges that they've been facing. And a lot of them have really been facing an uphill battle of trying to grow and build themselves and grow their business. And sometimes a lot of them have been first-time business owners. They never knew of anybody who's run a business before. So they were just kind of taking the leap of faith and then just kind of hoping that things would happen and within their business and really be able to grow from there. But ultimately, really, our mission here is really to help service-based business owners shift from the day-to-day hustle in their business to actually growing and actually scaling their business. And then the way that we're going to do that is actually through our 6 free virtual summit events that we're doing. You guys are currently on the second one. And then we're going to have an in-person event, which is happening on November 8th at towards the end of the year, where you'll be able to join in and basically attend in person. And I can tell you right now, the lineup for that event is amazing. We have we have a CPA that's going to be on there. Which she has a business called the Money Doctor, and she's going to be talking about how to basically level up your business financially, but also understand your financial reports, all types of things around that. We have our business attorney who also will be attending and presenting all around how to set up your business, how to register it, how to protect it. So all of those cool things. We have an AI specialist who's going to be talking about how to leverage AI in your business and through social media. And then, of course, myself, I'll be speaking. And then we have some other great vendors and great attendees that will be attending. So it is an all-day event. So tickets for that event will be going up soon. So stay tuned for that announcement. But really, again, the biggest thing here is that we want to be able to be a resource to you, provide you with information, tools, and then also be in a space to be able to connect you with people that could really help you with your business. And through that, just to see who's in the room, do you guys mind just commenting where you're coming in from? So that way we can kind of get an idea of who's in here. And then I'm going to continue to the presentation. So I got Shani from Sherman, Texas. Welcome. And then you got Johanna, we got Armani, and then we got a couple of people online right now as well. So again, my name, Wendell Jean-Jules. I'll give you a quick bio of who I am. Born and raised in Boston. Had a bit of a challenge upbringing, but overall had a great family that supported and raised me after losing my mother and some pivotal people in my life. I graduated from Northeastern University with a BA in entrepreneurship and marketing. I started my first business right out of high school. I am an author. I'm a business growth coach. So I help businesses and entrepreneurs position themselves for growth in their business while providing them the tools and assets to really do that. I am married, and I have a little pup. His name's Prince Marley, and overall, I love what I do, and I just love continuing to support small business owners and helping them get to the next level. And obviously, like I said, by the grace of God, I'm here doing this because I've had a really strong spiritual upbringing and being able to leverage my skill sets, that are gifts to me to help others, get to where they need to be. So, and I got Marley, welcome Armani from Little Elm, Texas. And so to kind of get into our main, I would say sponsor, but the host of this entire event, WJJ Brands, which is a business of mine. I actually am the CEO and founder of this company. And we're a business development, brand, and digital marketing agency. We help people start, grow, and scale their business and build an online presence while also helping them with their websites, their graphic design, social media marketing, paid ads, building marketing funnels to help them, generate leads, and really just a solution-based agency that really truly cares about everyone that we're working with, and put them first and treat their business just the same way we would treat ours. So that's a little bit about that. If you guys want to get more information, feel free to follow us on any of these platforms listed here. Now, one thing I wanted to get into before we dive fully deep into the session today is I want to address, what does business growth look like, right? Because this is the Hustle to Growth Summit. So um, one thing I want to make sure that people understand as they're going through this, right, is that we have to understand, where are you in the business cycle, right? And this also will help with being able to identify really the next steps of your business, what things you need to start planning for. And sometimes, again, if you've never run a business before, you don't really see the trajectory because you only operate from what we would call, being a solopreneur, or just what we would say self, right? We operate based off of what we know, how we know how to do things, but then that's really it. So a lot of people who typically are joining in from this, to this summit, are going to fall within what we call a solopreneur or a new employer, right? The goal for us is really to help you guys transition in between these stages, right? If that's something that you're truly trying to do, right? I have clients who literally are just like, hey, I just want to work for myself, do something that I'm happy doing, and that's completely okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And then I have some that are just like, hey, I really want to scale this thing, take it to the next level, grow it, hire people, make millions of dollars, and then go from there. So again, depending on who's on this call, feel free to let us know if you're a solopreneur, a new employer, or you fall within any of these stages, so we can kind of get an idea of how to really make sure that we're tailoring a lot of this information to you as well during the summit. So for a solopreneur, I'm just going to quickly glance through this. There's, I guess the best way to define is, either as a solopreneur, you'll be working for yourself, one employee, which is yourself. You're running the business. You're wearing multiple hats. You're doing everything. You don't really have a team that supports you. And obviously, as a solopreneur, your time is limited, right? We do have solopreneurs, again, that are running their business full time, but also have a full time job, right? And they still would be considered a solopreneur because they're still wearing all the hats while trying to make income somewhere else. Now, once you get into like the new employer stage, that's when you start really thinking about, who do I bring on to kind of offset some of the tasks, the leverage, that I need in order to be able to make sure that I can sustain what I'm building, right? Because the long-term goal is for you to really be, hands off on your business. Then you're going to need a team of people, right? We have a lot of people wearing the marketing hat, a lot of people wearing the CPA hat in their business, a lot of people wearing the sales hat. So a lot of times we have to be able to distinguish what are the things that we're really strong at, right? And a lot of times when we get into business, we want to be able to do things. We want to be able to service our clients. But a lot of times we're spending most of the time just doing everything else. And we never really get to do that, which then it makes it kind of like you feel like you're just at another job trying to fulfill different things instead of actually living in your purpose, right? So we really want to help people get to that level where essentially they can end up having a growth company where they have 26 to 100 employees making $3 to $10 million, and then just going from there. So again, like I said, this is just kind of a quick high level overview. If you guys want to get more information about it, there's a link somewhere, well, towards the bottom here, and then you guys can be able to check that information out. Now, I'd like to get into just kind of a quick recap. So for those that missed the first event, which was all about mindset, we had Ben Bauer who joined in with me to host the first event, and he was our mindset coach. And we had a great conversation talking about mindset, right? So one thing I wanted to address here is that as we go through these conferences, you're going to see different elements of what we talk about as a build up to get to the final session. So a quick high level overview, something that I took away from the last one, which was really powerful, is that a lot of people who have a business, right, run their business the way that they run their lives, right? Now, what I mean by that is if you think about the decisions that you make within your business or how you actually process, whether or not something is achievable or it's a reach or if it's impossible, typically it's coming from a state of your belief, right? And a lot of times what happens is that, let's say, for example, somebody grew up with, with basically not a lot of money. They were struggling financially, but then now all of a sudden they got this opportunity to start a business. And during that time, they were going through the state of basically feeling like everything was so scarce that they get into their business feeling like, you know what, I can't spend any money because I don't want to lose what I didn't have, right? Because they came from that mindset of, well, I don't have enough or I'm not enough. And they have to basically operate in business in that way. And sometimes we have to be able to undo these things, right? So then we can be able to move forward and really be able to take our business to the next level. And a lot of that is really what we call limited belief. But these are some of the highlights from the last session where we talked about the nature of beliefs, which is basically hard to grasp. It's like a cloud, persists despite seminar and books. Then we have core beliefs, which basically are anything decisions made about ourselves. So somebody might say that they're not enough. Is that a truth? Or is that really the reality, the perception that they currently have of themselves, right? So a lot of that, understanding that, then impacts the belief, which we went more into detail around the psycho-cybernetic loop and what does that look like, and then reinforcing what an existing mindset has and how it intervenes with your decision making, and then thoughts and beliefs, and then some statistics. So if you missed out on this and you want to get a recap, here's a QR code. Feel free to scan it. And then you can be able to get a high level recap and just watch over that last session and then, basically embrace that, and take some things out of that so you can apply into your current life, and your business. Now, as far as the agenda for today, we're going to talk about what is a client persona, the importance of a client persona in marketing, and then steps to develop a client persona, and then applying client personas to your marketing strategy. And then we'll open up for any Q&A for anybody that had any questions as we're going through this. And like I said, if any questions pop up while you're hearing or while you're listening to this summit, feel free to, again, make a comment, drop a comment, and then we'll make sure to address any questions that you may have throughout this process. So let's get things started. So again, let's kind of talk a little bit about this. So what is a client persona, right? A lot of times when I ask clients this question, I get a lot of a vague perspective on what they feel is a client for them or a persona that they might have. And again, that's partly due to just not understanding the full scope or the full picture around it. So what we like to do really is just make sure that we cover the grounds around that so that people can really truly understand the difference of what does it mean to actually understand your client, right? Because one thing that affects a lot of businesses, right, and also the decisions that people make depending on where they go to find their ideal client, is that sometimes we miss the important aspects. We miss why they would be a good client for us, right? The biggest myth that I hear is that everybody's my client, right? Sometimes I talk to people, I'm like, hey, who are you targeting? And I'm sure you guys probably heard of it as well. And then I'll have people saying, oh, well, everybody can pay for, like, everybody would be a client of mine. And a lot of times that's, to me, I would say it's a myth, only because if I have, let's say, a product or service that costs $1,000, and I go to possibly, let's say, a low income community, and the general household income for that community might be $20,000, $25,000. $1,000 would be a lot of money for that particular person. But if you're spending all of your marketing dollars and going to all these events in that particular area where these people live, the likelihood of finding your ideal client is probably slim, right? So we want to be able to go deeper and figure out more about this potential client so it can make sense to us, right? So really that's really what we're going to cover today, and make sure that we talk about the demographics, the psychographics, the behavioral traits, the pain points, the goals and motivations behind why this person would be a perfect client for you. And then for those that do stick around to us the end, we have a whole presentation guide, which we call your client avatar, that you can basically download and get access to it. And then you'll be able to complete it to really fine tune more about who you're really going after, right? So the next thing, why is this important, right? So a client persona, typically in the business development stage, as you're building and starting a business, it's really important to really identify who this person is. And sometimes people don't do it until later, right? But if you have the opportunity to do it before you launch a business, this is really pivotal and important, because it will really help shape the idea of who you're going after and how to engage with them, but then also how to relate to them, right? And sometimes, like I tell some of my clients, which is really funny, is that there are times when I'll ask the client, why did you create this product, right? Why did you create this service? And a lot of times it's, because, well, I saw there was a problem in the marketplace and I wanted to create something that could help solve that problem. Or I wanted to basically improve on something else that I saw and then become a little bit more innovative in my approach on how I solve this problem, right? And a lot of times I'm like, okay, so who do you feel like is your ideal client? And then they'll go in, tell me a little bit about who they feel like their ideal client. And then I'll then ask them, do you feel like you're your ideal client? And a lot of times the answer is yes, right? The people that you're trying to attract, the people that you're trying to go after, you essentially are that walking person, ultimately, right? And the reason why you create something is because you feel like you have that gift of being able to do something a little bit better. So if you look at yourself and understand, okay, what do I look like? What I fall into? How do I price things? And is this something I would pay for? Like, all of these things also directly impact how you actually feel, the value of who you are as a person directly would correlate with, in that scenario, your ideal client that you want to go after, unless it's something completely different. You just came up with this idea and you just wanted to try something different, right? So really the importance here is that we have to be able to understand that it enhances your targeting. So by having a better understanding of that, you'll be able to have a laser focused targeting, improves your engagement in regards to creating content, right? So a lot of times when we're doing social media content for our clients, or if we're doing, email marketing campaigns, right? The best engagements that we get are from the people that we know that have signed up for something, right? So in this scenario, right, I would say that if I was, let's say, a realtor, right, and I'm going after first-time home buyers that are currently renting between a certain age range, I would know that there's certain things that are of importance to them. There's certain pain points and education that I need to do in order to be able to improve that relationship, right? So then that way, as I'm creating content and as I'm attracting them based off of the content that I'm creating, it's allowing me to, one, be able to speak to them in the best way where they feel like they can relate and understand me, but then also understand that I can actually be a resource. And we really want to be able to get you guys to that place where people feel, or you feel, that people understand that you are a resource in what you do in your space. Other thing too is efficiency in marketing spends, right? How many of you guys, just from raising hands or in the chat, have spent money on social media ads? And as you guys comment, I'll kind of address some things around this, right? So a lot of times when we have clients that have spent money on social media or Google ads or any form of advertisement, typically what we see is that they'll try to do it themselves first, right? They'll spend money doing it, and then they'll go out, they'll try it out because they heard everybody saying, hey, you can make all this money on social media, you can make all this money spending money on paid advertisement. And then they go and they say, well, if it seems so easy, I can do it myself, right? So they go in, they spend the money doing it. Now, what happens once they start doing it, they realize it's a lot more complicated than what it looks like. Then as they're going through that process of spending, the dollar signs just keep going up, right? And then they're not seeing anything coming. There's no fruit coming from what they're basically trying to produce, right? And the reason being is because a lot of times we just put things up with no marketing strategy, no area of figuring out, okay, well, we're creating this content, we're creating this ad with the intention of targeting somebody, with the intention of basically providing some type of value, and then basically bringing them to somewhere where we can actually facilitate them through some sort of funnel, right? So what we would see here is that in this process, it actually saves you so much time and money, because when we go through and we're creating ads for clients, typically certain demographics or certain psychographics that we do target, you'll see that some will perform better than others. So a lot of times, like I tell everybody, marketing is a science. We have to be able to understand the data. We have to be able to understand what's working, what isn't working. And if you're not tracking that in your business as you're going through and you're spending money or hiring other companies to do that, then essentially a lot of times you're just throwing money down the drain. So what I'll say is that by understanding your client persona, it definitely will help with cutting and reducing your cost of how much money you're spending, because you're getting better quality leads. And then also product development, right? With client persona understanding, by understanding the problems and getting deep and really understanding what solutions you're providing, that helps a lot with making sure that you can continue to stay innovative, right? Because the more conversations you have with your clients, the easier it is for you to be able to say, okay, well, I see that there's a problem here. Maybe I can create a solution, which then now turns into something that could be a little bit more profitable for you and then directly impacts your bottom line. Now, let's talk about the difference of the demographic and psychographic, right? A lot of people, again, like I said earlier, focus a lot on the demographic. Your demographic would be age, gender, occupation, ethnicity, where they're located, education level, religion. Those are really the main things that will fall under what we would call a demographic. The psychographic aspect, which a lot of people miss, right, is really about the actual person, right? Because and I guess just to give some context behind it, the psychographic would include personality characteristics, right? It would include the lifestyle of that individual. Are they into certain cars? Are they, what's their social class? What type of habits do they have? What do they believe in? What are their behaviors? What are their interests? So that could be magazines that they read, right? If they're a business person or C-level executive, they're probably reading the Forbes, or they're reading some type of business magazine. So getting more in-depth information around that particular person really helps shape what a client persona is. And in order to do that, you need both, right? In order to really be able to make a calculated decision on who am I really going after. The other way of being able to define this would be by looking at your current pool of clients, right? If you're seeing that the majority of the clients that you're working with doesn't align with who you really said that you wanted to work with, then maybe that might require you to kind of shift your perspective on maybe a more tailored solution to the current market that you have. So then that way you can be able to thrive and basically tap into your real market of the clients that are willing to pay for your service. So that's really the big difference here between those two, but they're both important um, traits or things that you need to be mindful of as you're building out your client persona. Now, what are the steps around this? All right, so step number one is research and data collection. So that could be anything from surveys, questionnaires, customer interviews, analytical tools, right? And we'll get into more of that information. Step number two would be identifying patterns and trends. So what is the demographic information? As far as where they live, geolocation, do they have a family? Are they married? All these other questions that you might be able to get better information on. Behavioral patterns, common pain points and needs. Typically all will fall within this step of understanding the trends, but also understanding what's happening in the marketplace. COVID happened. A lot of people want to start their own business. If you have an uptake in your business model, then like as far as uptake in business, because all these people are going digital, then you need to be able to account for that, but also understand there's opportunity of growth, and that there's a certain need that needs to be fulfilled. And by being able to fulfill that need, you also create more opportunity. Step number three, which is create detailed personas, right? Like I said, I'm going to be giving away a persona guide, and honestly, anyone who's on here as well, I would be more inclined to do a live one with anybody. So as we're going through this presentation, if you guys want to actually see one happen in like literally live, feel free to say, yes, I'm open to it in the chat. And then if we can get to you guys, I'd love to show you guys what this looks like, full, like firsthand experience. So you guys can get a full picture of like, what does this actually detail, right? Step number three, like I said, create a detailed persona, name, picture, background, story, who are they? Key characteristics, goals and challenges, right? These are all things that we have to be conscious of as we're building out a persona. So with step number one, as we're going to talk through the research and data collection, there's different type of research that you can do. So surveys and questionnaires. Typically, for example, for us, whenever we have new clients that come in, we have a questionnaire for everything, right? Our strategy is always start with the strategic side of the business side of what's going on the project first before doing any design, implementation, or providing any other information or resources, because it's really important that we understand the data and the demographic of who we're working with. So then that way we can better basically create what we would call case studies, opportunities where, if we do come across and we see that there's an opportunity in a particular market, and we've started to see that we're working with a particular group of people, and then it's easier for us to say, hey, we've actually done this. We've worked with this group. We have some case studies and testimonials that can really support what we can possibly do for you, but also give you something a little bit more tailored to your business. Customer interviews. How many of you guys have interviewed your customers? That's gonna be I want to ask that question because I also do believe that interviewing your customers is really important. It takes more money to acquire a new customer than to sustain your current customer. So if you think of it in that perspective, a lot of times we need to have more conversations, right, with our clients. We need to understand why are they coming to us, right? And if we don't understand their motivations around that or the challenges, then how can we provide the best of service to them while setting expectations of being able to service them on a high level, right? So having these interviews, right, with your clients is going to be data, right? The more people you talk to, like for me, I talk to new business owners literally almost every other day or every single day. And I'm learning so much about them. And it's also helping me understand, okay, how is the market shifting, right? Because if I'm not understanding what's happening in the market or the things that are impacting or the tools that they may have come across that I was just completely unaware of, then I'm missing out on opportunities to actually continue to provide high level service. The analytical tools, right? So for everyone that's on this or watching this, if you have a website and don't have Google Analytics set up, I would suggest doing it because it's really important for you to know where are your people coming from, right? Like the other day, I had a client who has a little over 10,000 people visiting the website per month, and had no idea what pages they're going to, what people are clicking on. They had no idea as to what was doing the best or performing better. How long was somebody on a particular page? So all of this stuff is valuable information because if you're seeing that a lot of people are trafficking to you based off of either you may have posted something on social media and then that led people to your website, or you may have jumped on, like you sent out an email marketing campaign, and then you can directly correlate that campaign to how much traffic you're getting to your website. That could be that you sponsored an event, you went to an event, and then you had all these handshakes that you did, and then you had an influx of people visiting your website there. All of this stuff is valuable information, right? In order to be able to say that I know that most of the people who are visiting my website live in Dallas. Most of the people who visit my website are looking for web design or graphic design services, and the data will represent that, right? But then the system you put into place, which we'll get into in some of the other the virtual summits, is that data will directly help you make better decisions on how to address the market and what promotions to come up with, or how to, again, create better content. So tools like these, your CRM data, keeping track of, how many leads you're getting per day, where they're coming from, if they're referrals, whether they're from your website, making sure that you're tagging the data. So if you don't have a tagging system, I strongly recommend that. So with that, we're going to get into step number 2, identifying patterns and trends. So today I'm actually going to do, I'm going to show you some of the tools that we use for some of our clients. So you guys can also be able to go on there and actually see how this plays into your business. So one of the things here is analyzing data. As I was mentioning earlier, look for commonalities in responses. So if you're sending out a questionnaire to any of your new clients that you have coming in, and if you're seeing that, they're all addressing some of the similar data points, then that in itself will tell you a lot about where you might be able to find those people. But also, if they're in a particular industry, you might see that certain industries and the services that they provide in those industries might be similar all throughout how they're answering their questions. And then you might be able to leverage that to either go into a space where you might be able to see more of those people and then service those people on a high level. Segmented data is really important. So as you continue to get more key insight, try to understand, the information around that, and then map out key insights. So identify major pain points and goals, and then understand your customer journey stage. So those 2 things I just mentioned right there, I'm going to actually talk a little bit. I want to get a little deeper into this too, right? So when we talk about identifying major pain points and goals, right? The easiest way to basically attract your client or your ideal client is by understanding who they are, but why, but also understanding the need and the pain points that they have, right? And also the buying journey is different for every client, right? So again, I'm going to kind of go back to the real estate journey aspect, right? Since I mentioned that earlier. So if somebody comes to a realtor, for potentially buying a house, there is a particular journey that they're going to be facing, right, during that stage, right, of their business. Or I guess in the decision process of what they're going to have to make if they're going to determine on going with a realtor or, just finding an apartment. So in between that, there is a cycle that happens that we have to be able to understand. And a lot of it is similar across multiple platforms, right? Across multiple industries. So the first stage of that is you have what we call impulse buyers, right? People who make impulsive decisions. I'm sure you guys have seen them a couple of times. They see something nice, they want to buy it right away. Like there's no thought behind it. It makes sense. I want it, and they just buy it, right? Those are your 3% of the people in this market, right? And those people typically are making those buying decisions right away. Sometimes it's a good thing and sometimes a bad thing, because depending on if they come in as a client, they could easily say, well, yeah, I thought this sounded good. I wanted it. Can I just get a refund? And then now it's like, well, what happened? Like, I thought we were on the same page, right? So then you have the buyer who's now going to essentially look at all the different options that are in the market. They want to make a calculated decision. And then before they make a decision on who they're going to go with, who they want to, like, basically, if you're a good fit or not, if you're a good price point fit, all these different factors that they may have, right? And then you have the one who's just kind of the window shopper, right? That's just there. They're just shopping around, but they're not really serious about making a decision, right? So a lot of times across the board, whenever we're dealing with clients, most clients, when they come, to a marketing agency or some type of, sales business, they want sales immediately, right? They want that new client right away. And a lot of times, for us, as we had mentioned, people, is that we have to be able to define the journey, right? Just because we send somebody to your website doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to buy something right away. And also think of yourself, right? We're all consumers in some degree. How many websites do we go to in a day, and do we actually buy something, right? So if you think about it in that perspective, you'll also realize that there has to be a relationship model that's built, but also a value add that actually has to happen. So a lot of times what we're doing is figuring out who is your client, ideal client on a high level, what are their pain points? And again, like I said, we'll go through those. And by understanding those pain points, how do we now get your products and your services built into the process for that customer journey? So then that way, once something resonates or clicks with them immediately, that decision for them to say, yes, I want to work with you, is a lot more vivid and clear, right? One example I'm going to use, and I'll move on to the next slide, is for all of those that are currently watching this, how many of you have had the opportunity of meeting a client or a potential client, and then you're going through this process, you're talking to them about your services, you're learning about them, and then towards the end, you give them the price, and then now it's, okay, well, do you have any referrals you can, like, of people that you've worked with that you can send me, right? Now they're asking you questions because they're trying to disqualify you because they're already checked out, right? How many of you guys probably have had that conversation or feel like that's something that's happened to you in the space? And then now at that point, it's like, okay, well, just send me their information. I'll qualify them. And then basically, call them up, which they probably would never do. And then just probably leave it at that. I see some of you guys in the private chat said yes. It's very common. It happens all the time, right? Now, in order to combat that, right, a lot of times, if you don't understand the pain points behind that client or have more details around their buying process of where they are in the process, the likelihood of that happening is very high. Now, if you prep them going into it, right? So a lot of what we do when we build marketing funnels, we're prepping people through that stage. We're not anticipating that they're going to make the sale right then and there. We do know that 3% of them probably will, because we already have that number in our head that at least 3% of these people that visit out of 1,000 people will probably commit to something, right? And then that other, we have to basically nurture them and build credibility and trust so that they can also understand that we do what we do best, right? So an example of that is we have a business growth program, and we have a low ticket offer, which is completely free. We lead with that, but we address all of these talking points, right? Actually, I'm gonna go back here to actually show what that is. So this book that you see behind me right now, in this slide, is basically one of my self-published books. And the real reason behind why I created this book is because I wanted to add value to people's life, but I also understand that a lot of people who probably see this book or they see me for the first time have no idea who I am. So in order to do this, I need to build trust and credibility. So what I was ended up doing was that I ended up offering this book for free, right? We created an ebook, we have printed copies, and then we offer this book for free to a specific audience and a group of people that we target, laser focused target, right? In the scenario where we're going after coaches, consultants, and essentially small business owners that are running their service-based business. And when they see it, they're like, okay, well, it's a free book, it's personal development, there's a lot of information in here. And again, we go through a lot of things step by step in this book. So as they go through and they download it, they enter, in order to get access to this copy of this book, they would have to provide us their email, their phone number, and their name, right? Now, once that happens, again, like I said, this is my low ticket offer. In my first stage of the funnel, what's going to happen through that stage is that now I need to have a conversation with them, but I don't want to force them into having a conversation. I want them to willingly go through the booking process and schedule a call. Now, if they don't, I have automated emails preset that, again, address the pain points that I've identified for these particular people in this specific audience. And then, essentially what I call the best form of marketing, which I call fear of missing out marketing. In that marketing email, I'm essentially explaining, hey, these are the clients that I've supported, right? These are the people I've helped grow and scale their business to the next level. I had X, Y, Z client. He came to us. He was only making less than $25,000 in the business, and then we took his 2 years, 3 years of running a business and tripled that, right? And we did it by doing these steps. Now, essentially what you're doing, you're building this credibility, right? Because we're understanding that people, again, make decisions based off of trust, credibility, and if they feel like you're a trusted, like the value that you have to add makes sense to their current problem or where they're currently at in their business or even in their life, right? So through that would lead them to actually say, you know what, I didn't schedule a call when I downloaded the free guide, but as I'm going through it and I'm reading this ebook, I'm seeing so much value, and then I'm getting emails from him about what they're doing. What do you feel like is the percentage of somebody actually saying, you know what, I'm going to schedule a call with this person? And the call's completely free. I'm not charging you for the call. So you get onto this call, and it's a value added call. You already know about me. You already know the information. You already know what I have to offer. And now that conversation, again, we understand that, again, some people are not the decision makers, right? So as they're completing the form to schedule this call, we're pre-qualifying them, right? And as we're going through that pre-qualification process, some people are a good fit and some people are not. So again, if they're a good fit, we'll have the conversation. If they're not, we have other resources that we can provide to them and direct them and still add value. So then when they do become a good fit, eventually they can come back and actually have the conversation with us, right? So a lot of times we just want, a lot of people or businesses that we come in contact with, they just want to lead with sales right away. And sales, when you lead with sales right away and you feel, people start to feel like you're just about business and not about the relationship, because people actually generally want to build relationships and sustain those relationships because they trust you as a person. So to my point, I know, again, part of what we're talking about here, pain points are really important. And we really focus a lot on that with a lot of our clients, because it's really important to know what a pain point is, and what goals do people have in between the stages of when they're trying to make a transition into something. Now, some of the resources that you guys can probably use, I put some in here, which again, if you guys need it, I'll put it in the chat. But one place that we typically go through, especially when we're dealing with people who are just trying to start a business, is really just understanding where are you getting your data from, right? And one thing that intrigues me all the time, right, as you know, some of our clients go through, we have another program called a business development program where we help people start their business and then kind of really build what we call an actionable business plan, so then they can actually launch successfully. Is that through that, when we get to the section of identifying who their ideal client is, we typically ask them to identify. We'll give them a set of sections to basically fill out, and then we'll ask them to complete all that of who they feel like their ideal client is, right? Based off of where they're at in the marketplace, whether they only do local services or they offer online services across the United States. And one example I'm going to share with you is that we had a client that went through on the program, and she was a photographer, but she wanted to specialize in wedding photography. So we went through, we cultivated a business plan and got to the section of who's your ideal client. So obviously she wants to target singles, right? Because singles eventually will, get engaged, and then eventually they will get married. So if you're going through that process, right, and you understand, okay, there's a stage there, you want to get them at the early stage. You don't want to get them when they're already married, because at that point, nothing's going to happen. Like, you're not going to get a sale out of that. So she lived in Saratoga, Florida. Now, for many of you that probably don't know Saratoga, Saratoga is really kind of like a retirement area, right? Most people go to Saratoga to retire. So meaning that they're already married, their kids are probably not living there, they have vacation homes there. So at the end of the day, her market was actually a lot smaller. So what we did, we went to the U.S. Census, which is a great resource if you're trying to get data, right? And we put in all the information. We put in Saratoga and what populated. Obviously, it told you what the household income was. It told you literally everything that you see. Like, partly, this is just a small glimpse of what information they give you. So it'll tell you their education. It'll tell you their the health population, the race and ethnicity. Business economy there, the employment rate, all of these things, right? So we went through there and realized that most of the people that were there were single. Well, were married. So 50 during the time was 50. I think it's like 56% of people that lived there were all married. Then you had another 10% that were divorced, and then the age range was basically from almost 60% of the people that lived there were from the ages of 36 and up. So would that have been the best market for her to be in? The answer was no, because there was another city that was it was about an hour and a half away. The population of singles there was actually a lot higher. It's about 70%. And then also the age range of the people that lived there was typically a lot smaller. Was a lot from basically the age of 18 to 35 was more around the percentage of 40%. So based off of just that data of information, that gave her enough information to know that she's probably what she's trying to do. Don't get me wrong. Doesn't mean that she won't get bookings in that area if she really still wanted to stay there. But if she wanted to amp up her bookings for weddings, that would have been the best place to start, because now people in that area participated to get married at some point, or if they're engaged, that made sense. So, hey Raj, thank you for attending. Appreciate that. So, really, it's really important to understand the data, right? Because the data will tell you a lot. And a lot of times we have our own internal data. We don't even have to go and leverage this, but it's really important because if you offer a product or service that's over a certain price point, it's important to know that, okay, how many people live, so let's use Dallas County, right? Most of us that are in this that are watching live right now in Dallas. So we understand that Dallas County is this box right here. You have an educational system, 35.7% who have a bachelor's degree. You have household income of $70,000. Then you have basically total housing units, 1 million. Obviously, that's growing, consistently. Then you have a population of people just in Dallas County, according to the census, over 2,613,000 people are living here. And then obviously there's more data towards the bottom here that will tell you exactly the age range. It would tell you, the spectrum of how many people are between the ages of 18 and 25 to 40. And then it even goes even further where you can actually create your own report, right? So one thing I'm going to share here, because this is so cool, I actually want to show it to you guys. Let me go to... I'm going to switch over to a different screen because I actually really want to share this with you guys. I think this is really cool for you guys to see. Presentation. All right. So in the census report, you can actually create your own census, like your own business census of your own data set. So hopefully you guys are able to see my screen. Catalina, if you can confirm with me via message, if you're able to see it, so I can make sure that people are seeing it. But literally, it's data about literally any information that you need according to what's been reported and what people filled out in surveys. All has been detailed through the U.S. Census, right? So if we're in the state of Dallas, we can put in Dallas, Texas. So you can do it from regions, you can do it from detailed information. Just from the state of Texas, it'll tell you that, Texas, let's open this up here. Actually, I want to use a different one quickly. Census. So this is the one that you guys saw on the screenshot. But basically, if we're looking at Dallas County, literally you can put in the information in here and it'll spit all this information out. And then it'll go into a lot more high level detail about population, the people that live here. It'll tell you how many is over 85. It'll tell you, between these different age ranges. It'll tell you the ancestry of the people from here, the type of language that's, most common language, so if you're trying to hire somebody for your business and, obviously there's a higher population of Spanish speaking people that live in Texas, this is good information, right? Because if you're in a development stage or you might be a builder of some sort, this information is helpful because then you know that, hey, I need to at least have a Spanish speaking person on my team. So in case something comes up or something needs to be basically discuss, then I don't have to go out looking for a translator. I already have somebody that's a part of the team, right? So again, different states, different regions, have different ethnicities and different groups. They tell you how many veterans, the income level and poverty level, the educational system, employment system. Like obviously this gets really deep. So everything that you see up here, housing, health, business, economy, like you can get so much information from here. The other place that also, again, I'll make sure to share a link with you is that through our partnership with the SBA, they do have other resources. So if you're trying to get more information about demographics, economic indicators, employment statistics, income statistics, money and interest rates, literally, you can go just to this website here, and then you can literally get as much information about the market in the places that you want to do business in, just from basically gathering any information that might be relevant to who you're targeting and where you're targeting them. So really, again, this is on a high level, spectrum of just being able to understand the market and how to basically do your research around it. So back to this slide of the presentation. So again, if you guys need this resource, please feel free to reach out to me. The next thing here, right, is that creating a detailed persona. So this is really important. So if you guys scan this QR code, it will take you to a client avatar that we put together for you guys, which literally will have, questions, details, things of that you guys need, and you can go through to be able to download and start really building your client persona, right? Because again, and you can have multiple, right? Don't think of it as kind of like, hey, I got one size fits all. You might have, a woman who's, between the ages of 30 and 40, that you might be targeting work at a certain place, location, and then you might offer a particular service that resonates with them, right? Or you might get into more details where they have to be married, they don't have kids yet, but they're probably eventually going to plan to have kids. So you have an idea of like, who's this ideal characteristic that I'm looking for, right? Because the other importance behind having a detailed persona is that some of you guys, because I know some of you guys that are on this call or the summit, is that when you go and you meet people, right? And then people are like, oh, well, who's your ideal client? Who do you want to target? Or who should I connect you to? By having a good understanding of who your ideal client is, it makes it so much easier for you to relate that to them. And then the likelihood of them probably knowing somebody like that is probably going to be a lot higher because you're a little bit more detailed. And by you having a little bit more detail in what you say, then it actually makes it a lot easier for people to remember that, oh, well, I talked to Armani, and he does basically, he's in the financial space and wealth management. He helps really people who are trying to basically get their business, basically get their finance in order for when they get ready to retire later. Or same thing with Shani. So all of these things, right, by being able to define that in a little bit more detail, will help you be able to identify certain key things and be able to ask intuitive questions that will help you really make that better decision on how to basically, craft out your audience. Now, some of the other things too that we're going to talk through, we're almost done, guys, and is applying client personas to your marketing strategy. Now, how do you go about doing that, right? So for those that went ahead and downloaded, basically went ahead and downloaded your free guide, your client avatar guide. Once you complete that, it's important now to understand that if you don't create content that resonates with them, it's going to be hard for people to really point people in that direction to you, right? So social media is a huge huge platform, right? And the reason why we're doing this segment as like this topic as a second session is because the next session that we're going to do, or the next virtual summit, is going to be all around social media AI, and actually how to leverage AI into your social media so that you can also help engage, be able to speak to them the way that you want to speak to them, and be able to tie in the advantages of what you have as a business or the services you provide, so that it's automated in a way where it's basically your AI is doing the conversation. You're having that conversation. They're understanding your business. They're understanding your persona, who you're going after, and then basically going through this learning phase, which basically allows your AI to really be able to tap into the right people, right? And be able to address and find those commonalities, and then redirect them into the areas where you might want to provide that specific service, or just get them to schedule a call. So really applying the client persona to your marketing strategy entails content creation. So that could be anything from, hey, for instance, for us, we might be targeting, let's say, business coaches, right? Or life insurance agents, right? We can say, hey, are you a life insurance agent? Again, addressing the specific target because you know who your target is. Are you struggling with basically consistent calls or bookings, or getting people to, commit to a life-changing, service that could impact generations from now, right? And then being able to say, well, we have a guy that supports you through that, right? So tying in kind of all these little things by understanding a pain point of somebody who might be struggling in the area, addressing the pain point, and then be able to say, hey, I have a possible solution for that. Let's just have a conversation, opens up so many more doors than, hey, I'm a life insurance agent and I help you with basically life insurance. The likelihood of somebody saying, okay, I know another life insurance agent, what makes you different? So through that, that's where we really would really be able to make a difference, and making sure that content is created the right way. Channel selections. The channels that you go to are very important. So one thing I'll probably do on the next virtual session, since we're going to be covering social media, I'll go into some details around who are going to be the ideal markets in those specific channels, right? So you have LinkedIn, you have Facebook, you have TikTok, you have all these other social media channels. Then you have these blogging websites. Then you have all these different channels, right? You kind of have to be able to figure out and filter through which channel is going to get you in front of the right people or your ideal client. But in order to figure that out, you really have to be able to understand who your audience is, right? If you're targeting people who make over $100,000 or more, okay, what positions are they typically holding, right? So that we can be able to make sure that that we're targeting the right people, and not people that essentially may not have that type of income, right? So the channel selection is really important. Then the messaging, obviously crafting personalized message, addressing them by their first name, addressing, making sure that it's personalized to them so they don't feel like it's just a generic message to everybody, right? So for us, right, I'll use us as an example. We offer graphic design, social media, website design, all these other services, right? But when you go to each and every specific page on our website, we're addressing specific things that we do. Now, if I was generalized and just say, hey, we're a digital marketing agency, and you go to one page, you see all the different digital marketing services, and they weren't specific, then you would get confused. You won't really know what's what. And then now that opens up more confusion, where somebody's just going to say, I don't know if this is a good fit. I'm going to go with somebody else, right? But then for us, when we refine and identify our audience, we know that we have people in the healthcare space. We have a dedicated page for them. We know we have people in the real estate space. We have a dedicated page for them. You know we have people in the retail space. We have a dedicated messaging set up for them that addresses their pain points and how we can service them on a high level. So that's where, again, messaging and content is important, and campaign planning is also really important. You have to be able to track how your campaigns are doing, how is your messaging being received, sharing it with friends and family, so that you can get an understanding if this is actually something that makes sense to you. Like, if you read this, does this make sense? Do you feel like this resonates with XYZ person? Or finding people in a similar space or industry and asking them for their input, right? So all this stuff is really important. Now, tips for effective persona development: stay updated. It's really important. Regularly update your personas. Again, as you continue to grow your business, as we talked about that growth model and earlier, this model here, the business growth stages will tailor a little bit more of how you address your ideal clients, right? Even for us, like when we deal with bigger clientele, a lot more established businesses, a lot of times when they're spending money on marketing, it's not necessarily because they're trying to generate more leads. Ultimately, yes, that's going to be the goal at some point, but they just want brand awareness, right? Because brand awareness is essentially what's going to keep them as a big or key player in the marketplace. Smaller businesses, a lot of times, they're not focusing on brand awareness. To a degree they are, but not as much as a seven-figure business or steady operations. But essentially their focus is, how do I generate more leads? How do I get more traction? How do I, get in front of more people? How do I build my lead pipeline? So all of these things is really what they're focusing on. So the shift in the mindset and how we approach them are two different ways, right? So again, that's part of understanding your client persona, and being able to define and stay updated and keep that data updated and reevaluating every year, sometimes every quarter, depending on what new business you have coming in. Involve your team. If you're currently in a space where you have a team of people, make sure you're having those conversations with them. What opportunities you're seeing based off the clients you did talk to, or you're working with. What were some of the pain points that they were having? Being able to get more in depth and in tune with what's happening through your immediate team is also going to help you with continuing to refine that persona. And then use real data. So I just showed you guys a couple of places. You can go to the SBA, this US Census. And then again, if you need more information on other places, feel free to reach out to me and I'll make sure to get that to you. Keep it simple, right? A lot of times we overcomplicate things, right? A lot of times everything is really simple. Like I tell everybody, especially when they ask me, "Oh, marketing, what's your opinion on marketing or emails and this?" I saw this on social media. Somebody was talking about they could do this and made a lot of money, and I tried it, it didn't work. And like I tell people, everything works if you have a great strategy and a great game plan, but you can't approach it with just, I got to make a whole bunch of money off this. You have to approach it with, I have a unique asset, I have a unique service, I offer value in a different way. And whatever I create, I need to be able to start tracking and seeing how that directly impacts my business. And if I take one step forward, was it actually positive? Like if you go to a meeting that happens, probably once a quarter, and you never get anything out of that, then you need to reevaluate if that meeting makes sense for you, right? Because that's involving your time. Or you're probably not leveraging the people in the right way, or the people in the room are not your ideal client, or people that can really support you in getting to the next level of growing your business. So those are things to just also be open-minded to. Common mistakes to avoid. Don't create too many personas, right? There's a reason why I'm sending you, like, whenever you download that client avatar, there's a reason why I'm only giving you 3 to complete. The reason why is because the more you overcomplicate it, the more it will get confusing. Because imagine talking to somebody and saying, "Who's your client avatar?" But then you're naming 5 different avatars. How are they going to know which avatar to help basically focus on whenever they're out talking to other people or trying to refer people out to you. So that's really important. Again, as you're going through it, don't try to be vague about it as you're creating your personas. Really generally think about that persona that you're creating and really the everyday lifestyle around it. Ignoring data is, again, not something I would recommend. I think every data makes sense. You just have to know how to leverage that data. And then static personas typically are updated personas regularly to reflect changes in the market. I would avoid that, right? Because the market is always going to change, but the service and the value of that client may not change, right? Of how you provide a service to them, or the experience that you're trying to create, or the problem that they're having is probably still going to be a common problem. So just be mindful of that. Outside of that, that's pretty much, for the most part, the majority of the presentation. Hopefully you guys got something out of it. I do want to talk about, actually, let me go to the persona because I do want to share that with you guys. So at least I can give you a high level overview of how to complete it, because it is important. So I'm going to share this. So for anyone who did download this, basically, this is what you're going to get. And obviously, there's a form you fill out. Once it's filled out, then our team will email it to you. We'll email you the link for you to be able to get access to this. But basically, in here, we have 3 different personas that are going to be in here. And literally, you just have to go through in each one, right? And the reason why we give you 3 is because, again, we do understand that you probably either may have a female that has different requirements. You might have a male that has different requirements. So as you go through it, again, some of these questions are straightforward, but, think about, okay, what is the gender? What is the income? What educational level do they have? And base it based off of at least one of the services, right? As you're going through building this persona, you can do it 2 different ways. One, you can pick one service that you have. You can pick one service that you have. And as you're going through picking that service, you would say, okay, I'm going to create 3 different personas for this one service. The other option you have is if you offer 3 different type of services, then you can tailor each persona to each of the services. So then that way, at least you get an idea of whenever you come in contact with this particular person, and then that way it'll probably make some sense. In this scenario, again, if you go about it in that way, it might be a male or female, and you might be targeting both. So in this scenario, you probably put a picture of both a male and female. You can put male and female as a gender. You can put their income level, their education, occupation, locations, marital status, right? Then as you get into the personality slider, this is going to basically cover, are they an introvert, extrovert, messy, organized? Again, some of the stuff you may not know, but again, these are things that either you might know through their interaction as you're engaging with them. The client might be forgetful, right? They may need some accountability. There might be all these different things, right? And again, if some of these don't meet, like if you identify some other personality traits that you feel like are on a scale, then just change these out. Change them to the complete opposite, and then rank them according to how you feel they meet on that sliding scale from a personality. Then the next thing that we go through would be write a complete biography of your buyer persona, right? And then here are some of the questions that you may have. So, do they have kids? How many? How do they spend their week? What do they do outside of work? How do they feel about their job or their business? What are some of the concerns they have in life? What type of car do they drive? Again, as you go through and you complete these, you'll start to realize that there's some commonality amongst some of the people that you probably work with, right? If you're dealing with high-end people, they probably like luxury cars. They might be in a BMW, they might be in a Mercedes. Or, again, there's all these different things, but then the unique aspect about that is that as you identify those become data points that you have that you can use to also kind of identify, right? Of if I'm going to run a paid advertisement, maybe I just target people who drive BMWs and they're males and, they shop at Harris Teeter and, all this stuff, right? And then now you kind of shape the persona that might be more and more inclined to want to engage with the content that you create, right? There are different people who shop at Walmart versus how the people who shop at Target. There's a different persona. If you walk in there, you'll notice it. So these are the things that you just kind of have to be aware of as you go through it, because again, every brand has a persona, right? The people that you talk to, the people you engage with, a lot of times it's due to the persona that you're already perceiving, and sometimes you just don't realize that in that initial space. And then to my final point here, like I said, we have our upcoming events coming up. So as we conclude this second virtual Hustle Growth Summit event, our next event is going to be the rise of social AI. And again, we have a AI specialist by the name of Sander, who's going to be joining us. We're going to be talking about really a lot of things to do with AI and how to leverage AI, what tools to use, open source, closed source AI, what the difference is, all these really cool things. So then you can really leverage AI, right? Instead of running away from it, embrace it to your advantage, so then you can continue to grow. And then also by understanding your audience, if you take and do some homework over the next month, we'll be able to take that information and show you how to input it into an AI and really be able to build and generate content that's relevant to the audience that you're going after, right? Whether it's through social media, through email, or anything in the space of digital space. And then after that, we're going to have on August 21st, the art of market seduction. So we're going to talk about creating irresistible offers. So similar to what I mentioned to you earlier, I have a book. If you want a copy of that, feel free to comment in the chat. I'll make sure to send you a copy of the ebook where you can actually go through the funnel, which I think would be really cool for you guys to do. So then you can actually see what a low ticket offer leading up to a booking system to qualifying and all that stuff looks like. And then through that, you'll be able to get a good understanding of why creating content, understanding your market is really important. Then lead nurturing nirvana, so building a marketing machine that really is automated to help you process, because again, we're only one person, right? So there's only so much. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, but what makes us all different is how we leverage that 24 hours. And then really just kind of tying it back to the foundation aspect of it. So other than that, I'm gonna leave you guys with this quote, and then we'll get into some Q&A to kind of tie the session in. So unlocking the secret of client personas isn't just about targeting your audience. It's about connecting with them on a deeper level by truly understanding who your clients are. And you can transform your marketing strategies into powerful tools that resonate, engage, and drive extraordinary growth. So thank you guys for joining in. And then we'll basically open it up for some questions. So feel free to drop. I know we got about 3 minutes, but for those that do have to jump off, I do see Cheney, you do have to jump off. Thank you for joining. If you have any questions, I can answer any questions for you quickly. And then anyone else who's in the chat right now or that's currently still on, do you guys have any questions for me about anything we talked about today? All right, so we got another question that just came in. Oh, thank you, Joanna. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. All right, so we have, is there a business owner entrepreneur persona test that could suggest what client personas you would be compatible with? That's a great question, Armani. I'm pretty sure there is some out there. I haven't come across any that I've used, just because we typically help our clients do the market research, test them out, and then help them identify and qualify what is a good ICP, which we'll call an ideal client persona. But yeah, I would say, I guess let's talk. Let me ask you a question. So, actually, let me do this. Are you open to coming on the stage? I can add you to the stage, and then we can have a conversation quickly about what an ideal client might look like for you. Awesome. All right. So we're gonna open this up and bring him in. Hey, Armani.
What's going on? I would have had a nicer background if I knew I was going to be on stage today.
Oh, no worries, no worries. So, I guess let's talk through it quickly. So, I guess first of all, tell us who you are. What do you do?
Yeah, my name's Armani Miller Jackson. I'm a wealth manager at UBS. I specialize in the business owner entrepreneur client segment. So, work broadly with successful high net worth families, but focused on CEOs and C-suite executives.
Okay. So, with you folks in our C-level executives, what marketing approaches have you guys taken to get in front of your ideal client? And I guess what are some of the traits that you may have seen outside of them just being a high network? What categorizes them as a high network client to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, my team, a high net worth prospect is someone that has over $2 million in liquid assets. There's no real cap to that. In terms of marketing strategies or approaches that we've utilized that have been successful, big on LinkedIn, LinkedIn Premium, LinkedIn Sales Navigator. It allows us to identify which companies generate approximately these types of ranges of revenue, and we sort of are able to speak directly to the, also pretty easily filters out who are the executive VP, C-suite level executives that we can reach out to. Typically, if we have mutual connections with the prospect or the potential person we're looking to get in touch with, we might ask for an introduction from the person that's in our network. If we don't have that mutual connection with the business owner or C-suite executive that we're looking to get in touch with, we'll just kind of introduce ourselves with the 300 character limit message that LinkedIn allows you, and see if they get back to us.
That's awesome. So LinkedIn, your scenario, because obviously you're dealing with C-level executives, is huge, because it tells you, like, it's probably the most, in my opinion, the most reliable when it comes to identifying, the status or possible role that somebody is in, because then you can filter through the top Fortune 500 or top 1,000 companies, and then they all have a CEO, they all have a CFO, they all have somebody in that space, which makes sense for you in the marketplace, because then now again, just leveraging relationships, right? And that's where, again, kind of what we were talking about earlier, it's really important by understanding who your audience is. Because at a C-level executive role, there is a minimum that they're going to be getting paid, right? And there's a high level of success that's associated with that particular role, which makes it a lot easier for you guys to say, hey, this might be a great potential that can really help you guys, right? So I guess as far as resources, as you're trying to connect and provide like basically make the connections outside of a warm introduction, are there any resources that you provide to them as value add before leading to just, hey, let's have a conversation?
No, in terms of value add, we could probably improve that. Typically, what we'll do is lead with some of the accolades that we've received throughout our careers. We've been sort of recognized by Barron's and Forbes, which establishes a lot of credibility. There's a ton of financial advisors and wealth management teams that are out there. There are only 250 wealth management teams that make Forbes top 250 wealth management teams in America. My team has been able to do that successfully for the past 4 years. So that typically is how we establish credibility. We find that client referrals, people that have been working with us for a number of years, are typically the most productive referral sources. But we could definitely improve the
Value
the value add portion to the transitioning someone from a prospect to a client lifecycle.
Right. What would you say is there a particular pain point that you're seeing that they have that would essentially make them feel like, hey, this is actually a conversation worth having that you guys typically are seeing in the market?
So I think the pain point is a couple things: oversaturation. And when people hear wealth management teams, they think you're going to be just like the person that I spoke to, a month ago that was really weird, really aggressive. And I don't actually think from an investment management perspective that I would be better off listening to their advice versus like index investing through an ETF or something like that.
Gotcha. So in other words, pain point might be that, I guess in the wealth management space, it could be that they've worked with other wealth managers that didn't get them results, that they probably feel like, it's time to make that, start doing their research on another wealth management agency or firm or individual that could really help give them a different perspective on where they can take things. Or, the market, has shifted for them in some way, right? And that goes back down to kind of industry standards of, understanding the industry. And that might directly impact their way of being able to, do business because they're possibly leveraging that income in a different way or manner that isn't working for them right now. And you might have a solution that's more specific around that could help benefit them long term. Or are you seeing that generational wealth is a concern for them as well?
So I would say both. Definitely when we have that initial conversation, we don't really talk a lot. We sort of ask open-ended questions to understand what are their priorities, concerns, and then we cater recommendations and definitely investment advice to whatever it is that they're looking for, their goals, whether it's I want to retire at X age, I want to transfer X amount of wealth to my kids, sort of understand their family dynamics and so forth. What I think would be really interesting though, I haven't done a client persona assessment for some of the people that I work with. Like I say, one of my key takeaways from your summit was that distinction between demographics and psychographics. I never really thought in the context. I actually learned the word psychographics today. I didn't even know that was a thing, but that's so powerful and so important. And I agree that it's very overlooked. You kind of just look at, okay, this is the title, this is the income range, this is the zip code of my target audience, and that's what I'm going to focus on, rather than focusing on some of the more intangibles, I guess, or intangibles might not even be the right word to use, but some of the personality traits, the characteristics that are not necessarily, on a piece of paper, that would allow this person to be the ideal fit, for me, right? And sort of my personality type. So that's why I was curious, if there is a sort of business owner. I mean, there's all types of personality tests that you could do, right? To say I'm a red, or I'm a this. But I was curious if, based off of some sort of business owner assessment that, someone could take, that you could sort of identify, based off of whatever data, or studies that have been previously done, to determine, based off of your personality type, these might be some of the client profiles that would work well with you. And that might even be something to lead with when you are talking to a prospect, to say, you know, I think about myself, I'm very intentional about long-term relationships. I've done, personality assessments. This is sort of how I think, how I operate. The best
Mhm.
client for me, yes, is going to be someone that fits this financial profile, but it's also going to be somebody that sort of has this personality type. In order to, obviously, there's tension in any relationship type, but these are people that I'm highly compatible with, right? It's kind of what it's that question.
No, 100%. And I agree with you on that because, and maybe, and I'm like I said, I'm sure there's probably a test out there that might, address that. But if there isn't, that might be a great lead magnet for you, right? What type of personality do you have as a business owner, right? And that could be something that, as you're looking at C-level executives or other executives, that could be what you lead with. Hey, I just created this test. Are you currently working for somebody, working for yourself, right? And then you can have that option of somebody choosing between both, right? Yeah. C-level executive, or there's, a CEO of their own business, right? And then as they're going through and they're completing this, you're getting more valid information. Obviously, you probably wouldn't want to make it super long because they probably don't have a lot of time if they're in that level of being a C executive. Or if they do go through and complete it, you probably have to incentivize them in some degree, right? Just so at least you can get them to complete it. Um, but yeah, that information will be key and pivotal in being able to get valuable information, which then makes it proprietary information for you and the company that you're with, because then now you guys kind of have more insight, right? Because I'll give one example. So we had a client that they own a luxury closet company, and they wanted to compete with California Closet, right? Which is like the premier of the premier when it comes to closet industry. Um, and and initially the people that they were bringing in weren't really, they weren't able to spend $10,000, or more on a closet. Um, but understanding the market, right? There was an opportunity where we're like, okay, so what type of house would they have? How much income would they make? What cars do they drive? Where do they shop, right? Or possibly shop? And typically, when it comes to again those areas, like you'll find that high-end stores, high-end vehicles almost kind of align with some people who are in that space, right? That probably will, somebody driving a Porsche 911 versus somebody driving, probably like a 1999 Camry, right? Two different profiles. That person might still be a good fit, but the likelihood of it may be very small unless there's somebody who's really doesn't care about what type of car they drive. They can keep driving until the wheels fall off, and then eventually they'll get a new car, right? But to some degree, you'll see that when it comes to status, there's certain things that they go after because they can afford it, versus, maybe somebody that is less fortunate that probably won't be able to, right? So that psychographic really does play a big part, even down to what they read, right? There's certain books that they might read. There's certain people that they probably follow as well, and that are really key pivotal people. So the psychographic aspect is so much greater, like when it comes to being able to define your audience. And the more you understand that, the easier it is for you to really be able to say, you know what, I'm not going to that event because they're not going to have that type of people, right? But I will attend this event, because I know the caliber of people that are going to be here based off of the profile that I created. If that makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
But yeah, well, thank you for asking that question. I'm glad that you got something out of this session. And hopefully we'll see you at the next one.
Yeah, no, great session. Glad I was able to join. Had the day off, so thank you for the insight.
Of course. And happy Juneteenth to anybody who's on here. I didn't even realize it was Juneteenth when I scheduled this date. But I hope everybody's enjoying their day. If you have the day off, great. And Armani, thank you again for joining in, along with anyone else. I know some people had to drop off, but we'll definitely catch you at the next one.
For sure.
All right, see ya. So again, thank you guys for all joining in. Again, this concludes our session. And again, thank you. We're truly grateful. The next event, please stay tuned and make sure to attend. It's going to be July 17th. So again, we look forward to having you guys, and hope you all have a blessed and prosperous day. And if you guys need to get in contact with us, you can go to hustlegrowth.com, or you can go to wjjbrands.com and just fill out one of our forms, or you can go to my personal website at wendelljean-jules.com, and that will get to me as well. So take care, everybody, and have a great day.